we found ourselves some snow. You would think for a dog with such little fur, she wouldn't like this. I don't think I've ever seen her so happy. Mia, look at your nose. What do you want, the ball? She could do that all day. So we got a little bit of a late start this morning, leaving Laverton, Utah. I found this camping area on Ioverlander, which is just outside of Jacob Lake, Arizona. And that's right near the North Rim entrance to the Grand Canyon, which I guess is closed until May right now. Good thing we didn't have any plans on going there. But I think it's gonna be a cold one tonight. Looks like the weather said, I don't know, like 14 degrees by the time we wake up tomorrow, but that's all right. We got a heater this time. My last van did not have a heater, so there were some pretty chilly nights. So for a heater in the van, I am using a WEBASTO AIRTOP 2000. And that is housed right under there. And then the ductwork running into the cab runs right up through there. And comes out right there, keeping us nice and toasty at night. That's the best seat to sit in. Keeps your feet nice and warm. So a couple of the main reasons that I went with the WEBASTO heater is because you can get a model that runs off gasoline and 12 volt, which this model does. And that runs off gas tapped in directly to the top of the fuel tank. So there's a little access panel right underneath there between the two seats. And the ProMasters have a little auxiliary fuel tap on the top of the tank. So how that works is there's a line, a fuel line running from the top of the tank down underneath the van. Fuel pump and fuel filter housed right under there. And that runs up underneath here to where the holes are drilled for the heater through the floor. You can see here's the exhaust and the air intake for the heater. And how this heater works, sorry, I'm walking around in circles. So there's a small combustion engine inside this housing and a 12 volt fan behind it. So that sucks in air from the back, blows air over the top of the engine. There's a bunch of little fins in there heating up the air, and that blows out into the cab. I don't have insulation in my van. To each their own. I'm not going to get into the insulation, but I chose not to do it in this van. I did have insulation in my last van, and from my experience, didn't really do that much. I know if you spray foam it, you can get crazy with it, but I just was going for the most simple build possible. This heater uses almost no fuel. It does use up a little bit of power, but it's so efficient, it's not really something that I'm too worried about. So with no insulation, I don't have to worry about mold. I keep the heater running all night. It makes the air nice and dry and warm in there. So far, no complaints at all. If it gets down to the teens, which it will be tonight, it stays about 50 in there, which for me is perfect sleeping weather. So I'm really not complaining too much. So we talked about the gas portion of the heater. Now let's talk about how it's powered. It runs off 12 volt from my GOAL Zero. Unfortunately, the GOAL Zero does not have a regulated 12 volt plug, which is a huge downside to these. I'm pretty sure they fixed it with the new model, but that's what this wire is for, and that helps run my fridge. It's GOAL Zero's regulated 12 volt plug. I'll get into that at another time. So my heater runs from 12 volt, it's kind of silly, to 120, back to 12 volt through an AC to DC converter back there. I have to run the inverter all night, which is a downside. It runs about 5 extra watts per hour than it would be if I was running the heater directly from a 12 volt source. At some point, I will have the heater hooked up to the same cord that the fridge is running off of. So they'll both be regulated 12 volt, which will save me a little bit of battery at night, but for the time being, it's not a huge deal. It probably uses about 40% of the 100 amp hours that I have available if I run it through the night. But when I drive the next day, the GOAL ZERO charges right back up in about 2 hours. So it's really not that big of a problem. All right. Enough talking about all this heater baloney. Let's go for a little bit of a hike out here. I guess being from New England, you would think that I like the snow. Kind of over it at this point, but I'm not gonna lie, it is pretty. And it's nice to get a little taste of it here tonight at our camp. Mia's definitely enjoying it. She's just running around through all the trees. Mia, right here. What do you think? Are you a good snow pup? She's loving it. This is really cool. It'd be nice to see some elk. I wonder what they're up to right now. There's a bunch of signs for it on the way here, so that would maybe be cool to hear some tonight. Hopefully, fingers crossed, right? I can't catch her. All right, we made it back to the van. She's still going nuts. What? Your feet are probably cold. My feet are cold. Thanks for checking out my heater. Now it's getting pretty cold. Gonna fire this puppy up. I know my silly inverter trick. Get it cranking. Start blowing out some nice air soon. We're gonna enjoy the rest of the night. Cuddle up in the van. Thanks a lot, guys. Subscribe. Have a great day.